Hey everybody, Ross here, and this is Bible Study Silverstar. If this is your first time on this channel, click here to go back to the intro, or if you'd rather to see what's been happening recently, click here to go back to Genesis 36. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to jump right on into Genesis 37, verse 1. Now Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, finding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And indeed your sheaves stood all around, and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream, and told it to his brothers, and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me." So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him, and said to him, "What is this dream you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Then his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." So he said to him, "Here I am." Then he said to him, "Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me." So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. Now a certain man found him, and there he was, wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, "What are you seeking?" So he said, "I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks." And the man said, "They have departed from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers, and found them in Dothan. Now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, "Look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him, and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, 'Some wild beast has devoured him.' We shall see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, "Let us not kill him." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands, and bring him back to his father." So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. And they took him, and cast him into a pit, and the pit was emptied, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver, and they took Joseph to Egypt. Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. Then he returned to his brothers and said, "The lad is no more, and I, where shall I go?" So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, "We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not?" And he recognized it and said, "It is my son's tunic. The wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, "For I shall go down into the graves to my son in the morning." Thus his father wept for him. Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. Alright, we're definitely making up for Genesis 36's lack of commentable material today in Genesis 37. Now, the main character from this point on changes for a while from Jacob to Joseph, and we get a pretty good idea of Joseph's character as well as the general work ethic of his brothers in verse 2. The brothers seem to be slacking in their work, and Joseph, who we would call a goody two-shoes snitch today, went and ratted them out to their father Jacob. In reality, Joseph was being a good steward in the elevated position Jacob had given him in the family. This probably wasn't the first time Joseph had done this, so naturally, his brothers didn't care for him too much. It also didn't help that Jacob had plainly labeled Joseph as the favorite son. His coat of many colors alone was a lavish gift that served only to show his favorite status. The brothers' hatred grew to a point where they couldn't even be civil with Joseph. Their hatred was compounded even further when Joseph told them of his 2 dreams in which they and their parents came and bowed down before him. Even though it turned out to be true, it does sound quite arrogant to go around telling the brothers who already hate you that they'll bow down and serve you. Joseph probably would have done well to keep his mouth shut about those dreams. Now, Jacob was a smart guy then, as he kept Joseph's dreams in mind instead of dismissing them. It appears to me that Jacob suspected that God was somehow at work in Joseph, though he didn't know how just yet. When Joseph didn't find the brothers in Shechem like he was supposed to, it's unclear if they went to Dothan because it was a better place to feed the flock, or a better place for them to be lazy and shirk off their duties. Considering Joseph's previous bad report of them, I think the latter is the case. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Moving on. When the brothers saw Joseph coming, their hatred had grown to the point where they were willing to kill him. This is much more than some sort of sibling rivalry now. This is deep-seated animosity and murder. Reuben, though, had enough sense to not give in to his feelings and desires, and sought to only scare Joseph a bit by throwing him into a dried-up well with the intention of pulling him out later. This is what they started to do. Now, all of the brothers, aside from Reuben, still wanted to be rid of Joseph entirely. So while Reuben was, for some reason, absent, they pulled Joseph out of the well and sold him into slavery. It was clear they didn't care for his life, because for all they knew, Joseph would somehow be killed in Egypt. They simply didn't want his blood to be on their hands directly. To cover up their crime, they put goat's blood on Joseph's coat of many colors and presented it to their father. This shows even more that they only cared about themselves. They knew that even the concept of Joseph's death would destroy their father, which it did. Yet they still did it anyway, just to be rid of their nuisance of a brother. I mean, how selfish. And finally, even through all of this though, God was already at work, and had Joseph put in Potiphar's house. We'll see why this matters in the coming chapters. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, feedback, or suggestions, leave them down below in a video response or in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all soon in Genesis 38.